Ain't no way.
Hi guys, so you're going to need some measuring cups or utensils. You can use a jug if you don't have these. 2 very ripe plantain, like the skin was literally black. Vanilla extract if you want lemon, I don't know how that will taste. 2 eggs, vegetable oil, sunflower oil or butter, self-raising flour, bicarbonate of soda, baking soda, ginger. With the ginger you can use this one that's already ground or fresh ginger and just grate it. I didn't do that. I used the one that was already ground because it's literally 10 p.m. Some salt, sugar, and yeah. So I do my dry and wet ingredients separately and then I combine them. This is just what I'm used to when I bake. So the biggest one on that measuring utensil is 1 cup. So as you can see, I just put the 1 cup inside the bag of flour, shake it off, and then it should look something like this. Yep. I mean, I was a bit stingy with that, but yeah, that's 1 cup. Then you just put it inside the bigger bowl. Then you're going to need half a cup of sugar. The recipe actually said 1 cup of sugar, but that would be way too sweet. I'm using 2 plantains already, so that's going to add a natural sweetness to the cake or bread. Then you're going to get your ginger or your grated ginger, whichever one you prefer to use. The recipe says 2.5 milliliters, but you can use this utensil, the 1.5 milliliters, which is 1/4 teaspoon, and just put 2 of those ones. If you know the measurements, that makes sense, which I'll list down below. So I just used the smaller one because it's easier, and I did 2.5. Then you need some salt. I only use 1, that equates to a cheeky little pinch for me. Then we're going to use 2 milliliters of bicarbonate of soda. I'm sure it said 2.5, but it's self-raising flour already, so I don't really see the need of using bicarbonate of soda again. Anyway, then we mix it all together, mix all the dry ingredients. Because I didn't sieve my flour or anything like that, I'm using a whisk just to make sure I get any lumps or anything out. Now onto the wet ingredients. So we're literally going to mash the plantain. I'm using a fork. These had just been in the fridge, so they're not as soft as they would be if you had just peeled them. Alternatively, you could use a potato masher. So that looks like that, if you didn't know what a potato masher looks like. Yeah, so you just squash everything all up. The way you squash it will determine how many chunks of plantain you see in the cake or the bread, whatever you want to call it. So make sure you really mash it up. So at this point, I'm adding my oil. The recipe says 115 milliliters. I think it said 112 milliliters. So I just used the 115. And I don't fill up the 15 all the way. Yep, so that's 100 milliliters going in. And this should help with mashing the plantain. And then I decide I'm not going to listen to the recipe, am I? And I'm going to use 5. Yeah, here we go, switching it up. 5 milliliters. So 105 milliliters of oil is what I ended up using. And the cake does still come out very moist. It's actually fantastic. Like, I'm going to go and eat some more now. Yep, and then to replace the extra like 7 milliliters that I'm missing, I just add some butter, which you'll see coming up. So as you can see, the oil made it much easier to mash the plantain. Next up, I'm adding the 2 eggs. I would say these are medium-sized eggs, not large or small. So now just mix the eggs, the oil, the plantain all together like you would if you were beating eggs. So at this point I added 1 tablespoon of butter. You can use any butter, it doesn't matter. The same goes for oil. And if you do decide to replace the oil with butter, just use exactly the same measurement that I used. So 105 milliliters. Yep, so I literally just scoop it into the butter and then empty it out into the bowl. Okay, I struggle a bit, so you just use your finger and empty it into the bowl. Yep. And then you should have something that looks like this. Okay, so time to add the wet and dry ingredients together. I'm sorry for this camera angle. This is not the best, but it's as simple as mixing them both together. And if you're extra like me, just mashing a bit up again because you don't like that clump. Then you can get a spatula and just make sure you really empty out the bowl so you get all of the plantain bits. At the end of the day, we want the cake to taste like plantain, guys. That sounds so patronizing. Yeah, so empty it all out. Okay, so of course the next step is just to mix everything all together, both the wet and the dry. Make sure there's no more flour, so mix, 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 mix. Oh, okay, and if you're excited, just get the flour everywhere like me. And then at this point, I was scared that it wouldn't be sweet enough. So if you have a sweet tooth, add this step. If not, stick to the original recipe. And then I add 15 milliliters of sugar. Yep, just add that to the bowl. And the cake still tastes nice, but I think you could miss this step just so that it has a balance of sweet and salty. Look at that golden goodness. Just beautiful. So some might be happy with this consistency, however, keep watching. Okay, so again, I decided I want to not stick to the recipe that I'm actually giving you. And I add a cap of milk, semi-skimmed. I don't know what that measurement would be equivalent to. I believe 5 milliliters. Okay, and then you just get your tin, your loaf tin, your bread tin, and line it with some butter so that it slips out once the cake is ready, and clean up the excess if you're extra like me. Okay, so now just empty the mixture into your tin. So nearly all of the mixture's in the cake tin now. It's past the halfway point and this contributes to the cake rising quite high. If you didn't preheat your oven, I don't know what you're doing. Just put it in the middle rack like this, like I'm doing. I'm not gonna lie, I put the oven on like 5 minutes before then. Then I set a timer for 30 minutes and it looks like this. And I was like, whoa, I was not expecting it to be ready that quickly. So how I checked, like so, I was like, yeah, this is cool. Then I saw a gooey part and I said, no. So as you can see, the middle wasn't ready, or that side was heavily filled with plantain chunks. This is the end result. Beautiful and golden. It actually looks like a gege bread. If you know, you know. Okay. And then it literally I just turn it over into a container and it pops right out. Then I use the lid of the container to just flip it over again. And finally, we just cut into our beautiful loaf. And you can just see the steam coming out. Here's a closer look. And that is it, guys. Plantain cake. Look at all the little beautiful.